Hey guys, no Zoup for you here, and today I'm going to talk about two things that I really love. Battlefield and guns. Really the reason for this is we're going back to World War I, and I think a lot of you are going to be in for a little bit of a shock. World War I is obviously different from modern warfare, and today I want to go over some of the differences between the two types of guns you're going to encounter, how they differ. I'm going to cover also a little bit of speculation. Got a rifle that I really love that I hope makes it into the game. So we're going to start with modern times. Right here I have, it's basically an M4 clone. What many of you would term as an AR-15, except there are a couple key differences from actual assault rifles. One being that this is semi-automatic, one squeeze of the trigger, one bullet comes out. The rifles that you have in game are a little different. They're fully automatic, they have bursts, so you pull down the trigger, it's going to continue to fire no matter what. So let's just make sure that I've got no rounds in here. Gun safety is very important. No rounds in here. And no rounds in there, so we're good to go. All right, so basically you've got your magazine, holds 30 rounds. Obviously in game you can have more. Very easy, you just load it, pull the release back, and it's basically good to fire. You've got your safety right here. It's easier to see on this side. Put the safety up and it's ready to fire. This particular clone that I made of the M4, roughly the same size, same type of weapon, a lot of modularity to it, and that's the cool thing about modern warfare. I mean, you can basically do to the weapon what you want. You know, I've got a lot of Magpul furniture on here, collapsible stock, goes back, goes forward. You know, I've got the angled foregrip. Don't have my nice sight on here. I've just got some Magpul sights. Front iron sight, and you know, I'm trying to be compact here because my green screen's only so big. Fortunately, this is not a large weapon. As you can see, roughly 2 feet. So in modern combat, you know, it's very nice to have this. It's very small, even smaller than the M16, which is kind of a longbow compared to it. So you can see all day around I can just stand around with it. Don't get tired from it. Very easy to just snap on your target. You know, it's not that heavy. It's a very light weapon. So in game, you know, while liberties are taken in combat, you know, obviously you're not going to be able to come to a full sprint, pull up, and have very steady aim. How compact the weapon is means that you are going to be able to get a better shot group on it. You're going to be able to aim a little better. The kick on it's not that bad either. Fires a 5.56 round. So there you have it. This is your modern assault rifle, only this isn't an assault rifle, it's just a semi-automatic weapon. I enjoy shooting, being a veteran, you know, I've had a lot of experience with it. I can say that modern rifles are truly a convenience. There's a lot of great aspects to them. So be ready to put this on the shelf, because you're not going to be firing this anymore when you play Battlefield 1. We're going back 100 years, so the rifle technology is a lot different. You don't have fully automatic weapons out there that are readily available. You do have submachine guns, but those are more of a field covering type weapon that you'll just spray over the entire field. Generally, single combat soldiers don't carry those. Their weapons are a little more antiquated. You're looking at a lot more bolt action rifles than you're used to. So I'm going to do my little comparison now. I'm going to switch to an actual rifle that you would find in World War I. So here we have a favorite, and again I need to be careful because you're probably going to see the ends of this coming out of the green screen because it is so large. But this is a Mosin Nagant 1891. Now, 1891 stands for the year that it was created, 91. From this point out, we'll refer to it as a Mosin because that's what everybody else does. This weapon was created by Russia. It was widely available and was even used up to World War II, and still today by some nations out there that can't get their hands on better weapons. The weapon itself is heavy. It's got a wood stock. Very long, just about 4 feet. So you can already see the differences that you're going to have to deal with. Now, this weapon itself was not created prior to World War I. This was made in 1934 at the Tula Arsenal in Tula, Russia, where they still make arms to this date. The weapon itself is fed from the bottom. You can open this up and a 5-round clip goes in there, and it is a bolt action rifle. So you've got the bolt in the rear. Let's make sure there's nothing in here again. And there is nothing in there, and there's your bolt. So to fire this weapon, you know, cock it back, aim, and I can't even go this way. I don't think the whole thing will fit on there. It's so long. Just back up a little bit to give you an idea, but see how long this thing is. Now, imagine yourself running with this. I mean, you really can't run with it the way that you run with the modern assault rifle. I mean, it severely hampers your movement due to the length. Now, when you come up to aim, you've got a freaking musket here. So aiming it after a full sprint, your accuracy is just not going to be there. Not only that, every time you fire, you've got to recock it. So basically your accuracy is hampered by this recocking action and how fast you can do it. Now, there's one other aspect of this rifle that I'm leaving out, and that is the bayonet. Your bayonet right here, which goes on the front, just adds to it. Now let me see, I don't really put this on here that often, so excuse me while I try to figure this out. Yeah, and I had it backwards there. There we go. Here's the bayonet. And it just adds to the length of this very, very long rifle. Now, for the most part, if you're in the trenches, you're probably going to have this bayonet on there. So can you imagine holding this all day long, waiting in the trenches for that call to go over the top? Only, you know, being on the eastern front, not western. I'm getting my geography mixed up. Probably not as many trenches as you would find on the eastern front. So the Russians had a bunch of different issues they had to deal with. So this alone hampers your movement. On top of that, when you add this bayonet, you're adding more to the front, you're adding more weight, and you're decreasing your accuracy. So it'll be interesting to see if Battlefield 1 actually puts that into play, and having a bayonet on your weapon does decrease your accuracy. So can you imagine waiting around all day with this thing? I mean, it's not like that that M4 where you can just carry it on your side and hold it at your hip if you want. You got your sling on it. I mean, this, you're really either carrying it front or you've got it shoulder on the back, and if you got to run and shoot, your accuracy is just not going to be there. And being a bolt action rifle, it just kind of slows things down as well. So where does the speculation for the Mosin come into play? Well, I don't believe there's Russians in the game yet. I know France isn't in the game. That's going to come a little after. This is a very popular rifle. It's been popularized through popular culture and movies like Enemy at the Gate, which it was featured heavily. It's one of the numerous rifles ever made. You can find it just about anywhere. They're cheap too. I got this only for about $100 and it's been completely refurbished. It's fun to shoot. So it's a rifle that many people are going to want. So how do we get this into the game though? It might be a little easier to get into the game than you think, and we could actually see the US Army using this weapon. How? It's a Russian rifle. Well, many of these were produced, and at the time of World War I, Russia was not in the best financial shape. Actually, because of what was happening in the war, they had to put out a request outside of their own country for these rifles to be made. They put in an order with both Remington and New England Westinghouse. So they ordered millions of rifles from these two countries. Millions might be an overstatement. I think it was closer to 1 million. Anyhow, what happened was Russia went through their own little revolution at the time. So they went bankrupt, sort of. They didn't have any money to do it. When Lenin took over, he basically called up Remington, he called up Westinghouse and said, yeah, thanks for the couple 100,000 rifles that you produced and sent to us. Guess what? We're not paying for any more. Well, this almost bankrupted both Remington and Westinghouse in 1917. The solution? US Army to the rescue. So they purchased the remaining hundreds of thousands of rifles that had not made it to Russia, and from there they distributed it to auxiliary units and ROTC units, and some actually found their way into US soldiers' hands and back into the fight near Russia. So it would not be a far stretch to have US soldiers using the Mosin Nagant. So that is one way that they could include it into Battlefield 1 if Russia is not portrayed or not in the game. You could theoretically have US soldiers using the Mosin Nagant. That would actually be pretty cool because I do love this rifle. It's a lot of fun. You can put a scope on it and it's basically a sniper rifle. There are a lot of other variants to it also. There's some shorter ones, but this is your stock 1891 variant that is extremely long, somewhat heavy, nice looking rifle. You've got your, if you don't have a scope on it, you've got your adjustment right here for range. You know, right now I've got it set to 800 meters, which good luck hitting the target that far out, but you know, that changes the sight. Again, bolt action rifle, a lot different from your modern M4, which can fire a lot of rounds very fast. And here's just a side-by-side comparison. I'm sure some of this is being cut off the green screen on one side or another, but you can see right here just how short the M4 is compared to the Mosin. So a lot of your modern conveniences are going out the window in Battlefield 1. In many ways I think that's cool because I think we're too reliant on things like red dot sights. People are going to be in for a little bit of shock, but that's cool. Another thing about this bayonet, we've seen that in game there are bayonet charges. This particular bayonet is not sharp on the sides. This was made for one thing, poking and stabbing. So we still do practice with bayonets on our modern assault rifles. Those have somewhat sharp blades on both sides, although they're somewhat antique now, so I really wouldn't want to fix bayonet. I would hope that that day never comes. This though, you really have two moves with it. You have a parry, and that's to block an attacker with his own bayonet, and you stab. You stab with it. There's not really more you can do with it. You can't slice someone across, so bayonet charges were not very fun. And yeah, you're better off just shooting. I would imagine with this rifle being a bolt action, you're better off just trying to shoot to the bitter end instead of actually charging with a bayonet. But the mechanics for bayonets in Battlefield 1 have already been previewed. It's going to be somewhat of a sprint, so that'll be interesting and fun. Anyhow, this is a look at the differences in modern rifles compared to World War I era rifles, how they differ. And actually another thing about the Mosin Nagant, and I'll throw it up on the screen here in a second, this fires a 7.6254 round. The M4 only fires a 5.56 round, and I'll throw this up on the screen right now for comparison. You can see the difference in size. Phenomenal. So weapons in World War I were a lot more hard-hitting. The caliber was a lot larger, and remember, in World War I, there was no body armor. There was no protection. So a large round like the 7.6254 from a Mosin being fired at flesh does an extreme amount of damage. It absolutely rips through people. So you have a high fatality rate, and of course medicine wasn't back in the day the way it is now. You're not going to have defibrillators to bring people back to life in Battlefield. I wonder how medics are going to work overall. Penicillin, yeah. You didn't want to get shot back then. Absolutely did not want to get shot. So a lot of differences between modern warfare and World War I warfare. I'm extremely excited for the game. I'm excited for these weapons. I do hope they work the Mosin in there. I know a ton of people want this weapon in the game. I want it in the game. It's got a lot of cool history to it. Heavy use in World War I, heavy use in World War II. Even up to today, you can still find these on the battlefields of some nations when they can't get their hands on better weapons. So anyhow, got a little more time before Battlefield 1 comes out. I'm extremely excited for it. I know you all are as well. I can't wait, and just be a little time before we get our hands on the game. Anyhow, this has been No Zoup for you. Thanks for watching. I enjoyed this little gun talk and history talk. Hopefully there'll be more to come. Take it easy, and I will see you all later. Zoup out.